snowstorms before. I figured this one was like all the others. We could get a little water, but we would clean things out, and in a week, everything would be back to normal. I had delivered mail that Saturday, and I was really tired. They were talking about evacuation, but I didn't think I could make it through the traffic, so I told my nephew James that we were going to stick it out, and I went to sleep. James woke me up an hour or so later and told me the water was getting high. I said, "James, that water is not coming in the house because it has never, ever has come into this house. It may be in the street, but it is not in the house." But James kept bothering me about it. So I got up, and sure enough, the water had started coming in super fast.
A little boat about 5 miles across the pond. Say they rode a little.
We went straight across the street to an abandoned house that has one of those old-fashioned French Quarter-type balconies. And by the time we got up there, we could see the water flowing straight into our house. All our neighbors were congregating on the balcony because it was the highest place in the neighborhood. James was my hero that day. He has a friend, an elderly man with osteoporosis who lives 2 houses away. James heard him calling out for help, and he swam over to him and got that man out of his attic. That man was with us all the way to Houston. The only one who didn't make it out is our dog Puffy. When the water came in, he was just too scared to leave. James went back through the water to try to get him, but he just barked and barked. We had to leave him. We were taken straight to the Astrodome, and after you got used to it, it wasn't really so bad. I got really excited about all the stars that came to visit. Oprah came, and she brought dozens of ministers. She said, "You all said you needed ministers? Well, I brought ministers." All in all, we spent 3 months away from New Orleans. The Postal Service wanted me back, and they said they would find some housing for me if I would get back to work. FEMA paid $600 a month for rent for a year after the storm. But after that, I got back and started working again. They said I had to pay my own way. Of course, I couldn't pay for a mortgage and rent together, so we just ended up moving back into the house. The house was a wreck, but it gave me something to occupy my mind. Every weekend, we pulled down the wallboard and cleaned out all the water damage. Everything had to be torn down inside to meet the inspection standards. I found a good contractor, someone I had grown up with who was willing to work around us. FIA helped us too, with a grant and a loan. Finally, we got the house put back together for the most part. But even now, 3 years later, we still have major problems. I can't get insurance to cover us because they require that the house be raised off the ground. Lifting a house costs at least $30,000.
My house is a lonely house, but it once was a happy house.
I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. We had been through a lot of storms, but something told me this one was different. I called all my children a week in advance, and I insisted they leave the city. When my son told me he was going to stick it out, I just asked him, "Which one of your 5 children are you planning on saving first?" I think that convinced him. We were in Houston for well over 6 months, and when we returned, we found our house in ruins. One half of our duplex still hasn't been touched since we returned. It's a constant reminder to me of those terrible days. After returning to New Orleans, my granddaughter, Armani, and we shared a FEMA trailer parked behind the home. I'm her legal guardian. Eventually, we had to abandon the trailer because of formaldehyde contamination. I still have permanent breathing problems. My insurance just wouldn't cover all the damage to my home, so I've had to pay for most repairs out of pocket. My biggest expense so far has been a new roof. My whole family pitched in to clean the house, but we only reclaimed 3 rooms so far. Each step takes a long time because we have to file damage claims and get our work inspected and wait on permits. When FIA called to tell me they'd chosen me to receive funding, I thought it was just another bill collector. When they first called, I told them, "Patsy's not in." Then, when I found out it was FIA calling about a grant, I put the phone on hold for a minute, got back on the phone and said, "This is Patsy. How can I help you?" These days, I accept every call I get from a 202 or 303 number.
Broken windows and empty hallways, a pale dead moon in the sky streaked with gray. Human kindness is all